Good morning and welcome in to the Monday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. Hope everyone had a phenomenal weekend. Joe Rexrode coming to us live from Omaha, Nebraska on this beautiful Monday morning. Joseph, how was your weekend? How are we doing? What's going on?
Oh, we're doing just fine, and quite an interesting, eventful weekend here in lovely Omaha, Nebraska, where I believe today we're going to hit 100. So
congratulations to you! Way to go!
Yeah. What about back home? I mean, it ain't
gonna be that hot today.
Yeah, it's not gonna be that. So, one, I guess it's good the Vols have used their black jerseys now, although I didn't understand doing that during the day. I'm like, though they're about 25 degrees hotter per person than the Aggies, but hey, it worked out okay. They won the game. But,
they did.
Yeah, it's been a fun weekend. It's a great event. I mean, it really is. They do a great job. It's an awesome, perfect setting for it. And I will say, I've had some Aggies fans push back on me in the comments of my columns because the first day I wrote, it's about 65% Vols fans. Yesterday, I think it was a good 70% Vols fans in the stands. So, I mean, 30% is still a lot of people. I mean, that's 30%. Let's do some math. 30% of 25,000 is, that's still like 9,000 people, something like that.
7,500. Yep.
Okay. Sure. So, but I mean, it's just been an absolute outpouring for Vols fans who I saw you yesterday. You're like, gosh, people were tweeting it out down 1-0.
Holy smokes, were they?
People are ready to just absolutely lose their minds if this doesn't go well for them.
I mean, people were freaking. And I looked up and I was like, God, it's the third inning. Oh my God, they got 6 more innings left. What are we doing? It's 1-0. Guys are acting like it's 11-2. Good gracious! But hey, that's what Vol Twitter. That's what makes Vol Twitter beautiful, Joe. It was in prime form yesterday.
So if they actually seal the deal and win tonight, does that does all that change? Everyone's going to be calm and well adjusted, and
I would recommend finding the Omaha police scanner.
Well, there's that, yes. Well, after everybody gets arrested, I guess, then is everybody like, okay, I'm not going to overreact and freak out ever again?
Yes, I'm sure that's exactly how it'll go. I'm sure it will be. Yeah. Nick Keyser, good morning. How we doing?
I'm doing great. The 18th Game 7 in NHL history is tonight.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have a watch party down at G-Ma's basement, Joe.
Wow.
Because it's fully decked out. And all good things hockey. Even my pool table is down there in that basement. So I'm going to have a fun night.
I will say, we're going to get to the Vols kind of path to set this thing up tonight here. It's hard to ask for much more, Joe, on June the 24th. A winner-take-all national title game tonight in college baseball and a Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Final. I mean, I'm pretty pumped up about tonight. And, obviously Tennessee being in the national championship game adds a great deal to that. But a college baseball winner-take-all championship game and a Game 7 of a Stanley Cup Final, it's hard to beat that in late June.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty pissed. I can say that, right? Keyser, you're not gonna drop me for saying pissed because I'm pissed.
Running to the board as we speak.
Yeah. Just erase the whole segment. No, it sucks, man. I mean, it's great for all y'all who get to watch them both. But I mean, I'm definitely going to be streaming. What time? Okay, what time is actually puck drop?
I believe it's at 7:15ish, 7:11.
I bet it's closer to 7:20 tonight.
You think?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Assuming while the open intro videos and all that stuff, I'm sure.
Could be. All right, it's a little bit later.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's awesome. You're right. It's awesome to have those two things together. But also, wouldn't it be awesome if 2 nights of June were occupied by these two things?
Yes. You
know what I mean?
When Tennessee lost in Game 1 to Texas A&M, I was mad because Tennessee lost. I was more mad because I was like, well, there goes the dream of them winning the 2, so I could just sit down and watch a Stanley Cup Final on Monday night, and I'm going to have to go split screen. So, yep, I get you.
Yeah.
I feel you.
Yeah. But still, I mean, it's cool. Yeah, it's also like last night I was like, I'm like, it's a day game, and so probably done writing at like whatever, like about 8 o'clock, and it's like this. No, right now, can we please have the Stanley Cup Final Game 7 right now? I'm ready to watch it right now.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm with you.
But then again, I mean, the way this matchup worked out, you need those days, but they didn't know that. I just feel like if you have a chance as a sports league to choose between a Sunday or a Monday,
You're
isn't
going
Sunday
Sunday.
better?
Yeah, I would think. But regardless, that's what we've got tonight. It's going to be a big night of sports here for the Stanley Cup Final and the national title game between Tennessee and Texas A&M. So, Joe, you were there. You were live and in person in Omaha. A game one for Tennessee where they were chasing it the whole time. They got down early, and at one point they were down 7-2, became 9-2. Tennessee made it interesting later in the game, made it 9-5, but that was all she wrote. The comeback was too late, and you found yourself down 0-1. So you talked about heading into the weekend, and when we were making our weekend winners picks, the Vanderbilt path when they went down to Michigan, went down 0-1, won the next two, won the national title game. We'll see if Tennessee can finish that off tonight, but a tough start for the Vols, down 0-1. They respond yesterday after it was 1-0, I think until the 7th. Then they made it 2-1 on the Dreisling home run, and then Cal Stark with an absolute moonball in the 8th inning to get it to 4-1. Some big pitching performances yesterday from Tennessee, got them out of some jams, some nice defensive plays, and here they are in a winner-take-all national title game today coming up in Game 3. Let's start with Game 1. I mean, it was from the jump. They were down in that game, Joe, and it was just too little too late for Tennessee's offense once it finally woke up later in the game.
Yeah, and look, that they were pretty bad. They played some bad baseball in that game. 3 errors and then also a decision to not throw home from right field where, man, looking like me running the bases there. I'm like, dude, you got that guy dead to rights. So, mental error and 3 actual errors, just really sloppy baseball. And Vitello said afterward that he thought maybe emotion was a little bit out of control for the team. And look at that. This team's been to Omaha, but they haven't been to this stage, right? So all around, pretty disappointing performance. It's also funny that Vitello talked about that emotion, and then he was screaming about every pitch immediately the next day.
Yes. Throwing dirt.
Throwing dirt, and then he comes out and they get like the called strike, and he comes out to to congratulate Cal Stark, but really he's just coming out to be able to yell closer to the umpire. It's like just get as close as he can to yelling at the umpire, and the ump was pissed too. By the way, pissed, Geezer. I need Keezer's list of words that you can't say on the air. Apparently, he's been just dropping me left and right. Yeah. But I still, like after that game, well, yeah, like you said, going into it, Prager is their guy, and obviously the Stamos Causey thing has stopped working here.
Yeah, we're 0 for 2 on that in Omaha.
So speaking of overreacting fans. I certainly had some coming at me about, Vitello screwed this up, and you got to. I don't agree. I think that that hasn't been working, but this overall has been working for your team, and going with Beam second has been working for your team, and obviously Sechrist. He's the difference maker here. He's the gap filler. When we've talked in the last several weeks about pitching, does this team have enough pitching? And AJ Russell, can they get him back? And he's here, of course, after having Tommy John. But I thought that might be just maybe the undoing, the one arm short, and maybe tonight it'll turn out that way. But I think that going with the same routine and order just makes sense especially when this team never has back-to-back bad games. And there you go. Yesterday, I thought they just played a really tight, sound defensively game, and just the pitching was just fantastic. The pitching saved them because they were definitely frustrated at the plate against a pitcher for Texas A&M who has just fantastic stuff in Chris Cortez.
Yep, no doubt about it. Then yesterday, Beam with 4 innings, Combs with another 4 innings, and that really was just a huge performance by those two. yesterday, specifically on the mound. And then, the Dreisling home run finally gets through. And then when Cal Stark got a hold of that one, it was like, I think you felt like some Tennessee fans breathing a little bit when Cal Stark got a hold of that one in the 8th inning. Even after that, I mean, they made it a little hairy on themselves in the 8th and into the 9th, but they were able to come through with no other runs allowed there. So just a couple of big at-bats by those guys. But I thought Beam and Combs really were the difference yesterday.
Absolutely. Beam only gets credit, it's like 4 innings, but man, he I mean, he's sitting there looking at his offense and realizing like this is like you can't make a mistake. He made, I didn't even think it was that bad of a pitch. Jace Laviolette, has 29 homers for a reason.
Yeah.
And he launched that and you're like, uh-oh. But of course that was the only thing he gave. I mean, there might have been one other like sharp hit. There were a couple bloop hits against him. I don't know that there was another hard hit ball against Drew Beam all day. He strikes out the side in 12 pitches right after one of the Vols innings that ended in frustration with Christian Moore bouncing out with the bases loaded. So incredible response from him.
He was talking a little trash yesterday, by the way.
Oh my goodness, was he? Yes. Talking trash, scream. I mean, he took the walk in the 7th and screaming at the dugout to get him going. I mean, he wants this badly. Yeah, like you said, Combs also just phenomenal. And yeah, I think if it would have gone smoothly, they probably would have just gone Combs all the way and just gone 4 and 5. But Kirby Cannell and then of course Nate Snead came in, and they'll both be available today. But those pitching performances are amazing. Like you said, that the moment with Dylan Dreiling was, that guy is. You can go through the lineup and kind of pick out your favorites. Mike Wilson has been adamant that he thinks the best pro prospect and the best pro hitter out of this will be Dreiling. So we'll see. I mean, I still think Kavares Tears has an incredible ceiling. He's kind of struggling right now.
Yep.
And even Christian Moore in this series just has 1 hit. But that home run, I mean, you just kind of felt like it was inevitable. If they were to go down and never get anything going with that offense, that just would have been a stunning way for the season to end.
Well, and then Vol Twitter was all over Cal Stark at the plate yesterday, and I mean all over him. And then he just crushed that ball in the 8th inning, and the tune changed a little bit. I saw on Vol Twitter.
Is that right?
Everybody all over.
Everybody loves him again.
Yeah, it was quite the about face by Vol Twitter on the Cal Stark front yesterday. It sets up a winner-take-all for the Vols tonight against Texas A&M, Game 3 in the College World Series Final. We'll take your thoughts on that. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Joe Rexrode live from Omaha in advance of the game tonight. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, broadcasting live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Joe Rexrode live from Omaha. Game 3 tonight between Tennessee and Texas A&M. The winner is the national champion this year in college baseball. Taking your thoughts on that, 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. Joe Rexrode, it's a situation now where if you're looking at this from the outside, obviously Texas A&M been really good all year. You know, Mike Wilson talked last week on our show about them being his pick heading into the tournament to win the whole thing. So I think clearly the two best teams have made it to the final here. So I ask you this question, Game 3 today, based on the way the series has played out to this point and based on kind of the state of both rosters right now, who do you think has the advantage heading into this game tonight for Game 3?
Well, it's a great question. I think Tennessee's better. I mean, Tennessee is a better team offensively, especially with Brady Montgomery out for Texas A&M. That's a huge loss. I mean, you're talking about, you know, a star player in the middle of that lineup. So Tennessee, although, again, some guys have not, I mean, you know, Amick, Moore, and Tiers in particular, you know, and Burke's struggling. I mean, like, you know, they've run into some good pitching here, and so you've seen the results, but certainly they're better offensively. Who has the result on the mound? That's look, Tennessee has more arms. Again, Cortez, who probably has the nastiest stuff. I mean, Chris Cortez for Texas A&M. I mean, you're talking about 100. He's hitting 101 with his like 90th pitch yesterday, which by the way, was his season high. I mean, Jim Schlossnagel's like, I'm riding him, and we're trying to win a national championship with this kid. And you know, Tennessee, to their credit, even though they weren't cashing in 0 for 16 with runners on until Dryling's homer, still they were driving that pitch count up. They were getting runners on base, you know, and that's so he's out of the equation, obviously. Now they were able to save Evan Aschenbeck, who is their lefty senior, very good, and they're going to have Justin Lampkin like their third starter today, lefty too. I mean, honestly, the answer is just what is this what Xander Sechrist is?
Right. What
we've seen the last couple times? Because if that's true, then I'll give the edge to Tennessee. I mean, if he's going to pitch like that, which is just well beyond, it's well beyond what we've seen, but also it is like it's a different opportunity. You know, you're talking about like a midweek guy, a middle relief guy, and fun loving. I mean, yesterday they win the game, and everybody knows it's his game now, right? I mean, he had to sit there hoping that he would get a chance to play again and hoping he would get a chance to pitch tonight for a national championship. And he's just out there to feel like, oh yeah, baby, what's up? You know, just taking all the selfies and talking with us. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Whatever you guys want, you know? I mean, it's just, yeah, he is completely like, he's just loving this whole thing. He's having a blast. So I think mindset wise, great situation, but I mean, I don't know. Is he going to continue to be a dominant pitcher who gets into the 7th inning? If that's the case, then I think Tennessee definitely has the edge. And also Xander Sechrist is headed for all-time legend, John Fulkerson status, but with a natty.
I thought it was interesting to hear Vitello after Game 1 talk about kind of the emotions and the mindset of the team, and basically just said, it's not really the way that they've handled things all year long. And Joe, by about the 5th or 6th inning yesterday, even, I wasn't freaking out like some of all Twitter was with some of the tweeting that was going on. But I did wonder, I was like, is this too big for them? Like, are they trying too hard? Or is there too much energy being expended? Are they worried about too much when they're up there? And then they finally break through with Dryling's home run, and then Cal Stark breaks through a little bit later. But, just mindset-wise, everybody knows season ends tonight, right? I mean, Vitello was talking yesterday about how, one of the things he and the staff have talked about is they want to spend as much time together as humanly possible. Well, this is it. I mean, it's going to be it tonight, and you're going to be winner or loser in the National Championship Series. But I did wonder throughout the first game, and once we got about halfway through yesterday, I was like, man, Like, is the moment getting a little bit too big for them? And then I think they responded in the right way after that. I think the pitching was fine from the jump yesterday, but offensively, it just felt like they were a little tight up there. Maybe the moment was getting too big, and it kind of felt like from a team-wide standpoint, when Dreiling hit that home run, there was a collective exhale that took place.
Yeah. Well, and you know how baseball is, right? It's like we talk in hockey, you're gripping the stick too tightly. The same thing with baseball.
Oh, yeah.
And then you sit in dead red, and that happened definitely. I mean, Chris Cortez had them off balance. I mean, I think of Burke's at bat when he grounded out with the bases loaded. It's like, man, it was all set up for him, and he was just gonna destroy one, and he just got a little piece of an off-speed pitch because he was way out in front, and you ground out to second. So, yeah, I mean, I think there was definitely frustration, but I do think a lot of it. Actually, I think Vitello said in the presser, he said something like there was maybe a little too much try hard, which I thought was funny. But also, you got to definitely credit, Cortez, and that's the old baseball adage about good hitting and good pitching. I mean, that was definitely going to be the story yesterday. What a great example of good pitching beating good hitting. But this lineup is just because even when they were not getting that big hit, they were getting hits, seeing pitches, driving pitch counts up, and it's just you just feel like there's some inevitability with this lineup.
Well, and to that point, leading into tonight, does Christian Moore kind of that game that we've seen from him all year long, where he's just dominant tonight? Does the top part of that lineup become a huge problem for Texas A&M again tonight? Like, they've done a pretty decent job of holding those guys down through 2 games. But, I mean, the more you see those guys and the more opportunities that they get, the harder it has been all year long to hold those guys down. So I wonder, going back to who has the advantage tonight, Joe, like, is Christian Moore just going to go nuts tonight? Is Blake Burke going to knock one out of the park tonight? Like, A&M's done a good job of holding those guys down. Does that end tonight? That's what you got to be, I think, wary of if you're an Aggie fan today.
Right. And of course, if you go by the traditional matchups, like I said, their guys, Lampkin and Aschenbeck, both lefties. They do also have Josh Stewart. He would be, I think, the other guy who would be involved. He's a righty. Of course, Burke usually hits lefties pretty well. So, and Dreiling too. I mean, but yeah, I mean, I think that would be a huge boost for this team, probably especially Moore and Burke. When those guys get going at the very top of that order, it's like, it's almost like it makes it easier for everybody else. So, I feel like this is going to be one of those, whoever strikes first, like there's a lot of emotion when everybody knows it's the last game and it's all on one game. That first strike offensively could be really important.
Yeah, Vitello might be like halfway between the dugout and the plate tonight, yelling at the ump. Who knows? He got going quick yesterday.
He did. And I was like, they've thrown like 7 pitches in the game. I mean, how do you know if the ump's strike zone?
Man, Ball Twitter got it all over you right after that too. Can't you see this, Joe? It's inconsistent.
I know. And then someone quote to me and said, "You need to tweet more responsibly." And I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna leave it alone, man.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Winner take all for the national title tonight for Tony Vitello and the Tennessee Volunteers. More of your thoughts on that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Coach, I know it's probably easier during maybe a regular season game, but with what was at stake, when you guys are leaving a lot of runners in scoring position, how do y'all try to talk together as a team about not getting frustrated, feel like, those chances you had were slipping away and, it was going to be eating at the back of their head or something?
Yeah, it's a delicate balance because we had bases loaded twice, I believe, and didn't have anything to show for it. And if you look at those at-bats, two of our best guys didn't necessarily look themselves. And I think it was probably because there was a little extra tension or a little extra try hard, but it's kind of hard to not have that. And then also Cortez is really good. And I think in particular, I don't know what he said, but in particular, I think he had a good day for himself as well. So there were a couple times where it's like, hey, we need to relax or change the mojo a little bit. But it was kind of the flow of the game. There's usually a flow to a game, even in the postseason where it's chaos. And it was challenging for us. And I think the biggest thing is, just to relax and play ball. That's served us well. And I think that the tension stuff that maybe appeared a time or two since we've been here, it clearly doesn't work.
That's Tony Vitello yesterday after the game. Tennessee wins, forces a winner-take-all tonight for the national championship game. Taking your thoughts, 615-737-1025. Another classic performance from Vitello in the press conference yesterday. He covered rap music. He covered DoorDash, a Jake Taylor comparison between Cal Stark after the game. It's good stuff from Vitello yesterday.
Yeah, our buddy Ryan McGee got the mic and was like, hey, solid Jake Taylor reference there. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, I could see, look, some of the ads, people had no idea who I was talking about. Like, he's not on either roster.
Who's that guy?
He also said that he keep talking. Apparently, like, they're in the Marriott here about a half block from me, and apparently, and I tell you what, it is a wild scene over there. I went over there before the first game, watch him go on the buses, but apparently they're just partying all night over there, and he can't not hear it. He said he pulled a Xander and lost one of his AirPods. so the night before, yesterday's game, he was sitting there with one AirPod, but he's I guess he's got it now, and he says he prefers the brown noise option to the white noise option. So I don't even know.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't know. What is brown noise?
I have no idea.
Apparently that's an option. So if anybody on the text line driven by WilsonCountyHoney.com can tell us what brown noise is, that'd be great to know. But that's his choice over white noise. And he's had some doozy. That was what I was last week. I forgot to bring it up. Did you see the last week when the shout out to Bob Probert?
No.
So he was just talking about I guess his dad, even though he's a St. Louis guy, his dad is a Chicago guy, a huge Blackhawks fan. So he grew up as a Blackhawks fan. So Preds fans, slap in your face. Yep, slap in your face. But and he's just talking about how like rivalries and he loves that stuff, and he's just like, shout out Bob Probert. Like, what? Just I gotta go. I gotta like get all these gathered in one spot.
You really do.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Pretty good.
Michael on the text line says, can the Vols please not let a first inning bomb happen tonight? It would be nice to see what Tennessee could look like playing from the lead, which they've not done a ton in this series. They got it late in the game yesterday, played the last 3 innings with it. That's about it. It'd be nice to see them play with it earlier in the game tonight.
That's a good point. They've trailed for like 15 of 18 innings, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because it's been immediate. It's been the leadoff guy, and then yesterday leadoff guy who's named Grahovac, and then yesterday Laviolette. So yeah,
Any relation to Peter Laviolette?
I don't think so, because the V in his name is up.
I've seen that. Yes.
So I guess not, but yeah, like I said, I think that the early first strike, it's like with Sechrist and with Tennessee's offense against just about anybody, that's obviously possible. They jump on people all the time. With Tennessee, I think there is a level of, okay, is Xander doing another magical deep start, or, because when he got that role, it was kind of more of an opener idea. Not quite like Stamos, who is like, can you give us 2 innings? But, a little bit more of a of an opener and give a couple good innings, and then we'll go from there. But now it's like, no, man, you're the starter. Be the starter. So I think early success and not letting them get on the board is really important.
Joe, from the pressure aspect, it's the national title game. So there's clearly pressure on both teams, and this is not like this is some, Friday night game in Arkansas that you're playing tonight if you're Tennessee, if you're Texas A&M. So we all understand that heading into this. Do you worry if you're a Tennessee fan about that becoming a factor? Like, is there significant pressure more so on the Tennessee side tonight based on all the winning that they've done and the fact that you want to punch that final ticket and win a national championship here? I mean, obviously A&M wants to do the same thing, but how do you view like the pressure part of this in terms of we've seen it, and not necessarily with Tennessee, but sometimes when teams get in these situations, you can almost feel it. I mean, there's pressure that you can just sense even watching through the TV screen. How do you view that aspect of it heading into a winner-take-all Game 3?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think with Tennessee, I think definitely they, like you were saying earlier, Robbie, they were up there pressing a little bit, like kind of incredulous that they still hadn't scored a run as they get to the seventh inning. They're just not used to being in that situation, trying to save their season. So much pressure was on them yesterday. So I think there's a certain amount of exhale in terms of, all right, now this is it, So I think they relieved some pressure yesterday, but now you get to this different deal where it's like everything on one game. Both of these programs, and you're talking about, I think the stat for Texas A&M is like they haven't had like a men's national championship of any type since the 30s, which is pretty wild.
Yeah.
And obviously Schlossnagle is a guy great coach at TCU for a long time, who's had several College World Series teams and hasn't gotten it done. So there's that aspect for him. There's definitely a lot more of like, can this guy win the big one? But does that transfer to his players? I don't know. I think both these teams, you get to this stage, that first night, definitely it's like a different deal. There's only two fan bases in the place. It's, you've had some time to think about it. But now that they've gone at it, I just think both teams they're competitive. Like you said, there's some trash talk going out there. I mean, it's intense. So I don't know that there's really an advantage there. I think you could make the case both ways. I do think the Vols, that home run by Dreiling and then, Stark getting one, I think there was a certain level of, they were really happy. And again, I don't think like too happy, like they're just, now they're just going to have a letdown today, but just happy to earn the opportunity and be like, okay, yeah, see, we still do have this offense. We still can hit the ball like that. Christian Moore after the game talking to us, and it's like someone asked him about Cal Stark. He's like, what about, Cal? It's 0 for 16 in Omaha and all this stuff. And Christian, and he said Cal came up to him and said, man, I'm like 0 for, and Christian Moore was like, well, then just go hit a homer. Which is basically, Cal Stark is very much a feast or famine type of hitter, right? Like if he centers one up, he can send it a mile, but he's not hitting for average and stuff like that. He's also a heck of a catcher who had a huge back pick yesterday again.
He did.
But yeah, the pressure question is a good question. I don't know. I think it's pretty even. I think it should be a great game. This is what it should be. Two great teams, worthy national champions, and only one of them can be that.
Tennessee, a decently heavy favorite tonight, Joe. Just by the betting odds on FanDuel Sportsbook, they are minus 290 to win and are favored by 2.5 runs on the spread. So minus 290 is decent sized favorite for Tennessee in Game 3 tonight, which is a little surprising to me just based on how close this series has been so far.
Yeah, and that is surprising. Lampkin's, a good pitcher for them, and like if they had a Dolander, a Burns, a Beam, some of these guys we're used to seeing start for them, then I would agree. I just don't know exactly. Even though it's been so good lately, it's still a pretty small sample size with Xander Sechrist, doing what he's been doing. Yep. So that's a little surprising.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. By the way, Nick Keyser, via Google search, brown noise, Joe, quote,
Okay.
A dense, neutral sound that contains every frequency the human ear can detect, but with a lower, deeper quality than white noise. There you go.
All right. Tony Vitello teaching us stuff.
Never in my life have I heard of brown noise until his press conference yesterday.
Shout out Tony Vitello and Brown Noise and Bob Probert.
615-737-1025, our phone number. More of your thoughts on the Vols in the national title game coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, the game. Nashville's best deal of the week is Puckett's Restaurant. Swing by Puckett's Restaurant, where down-home tradition meets a vibrant atmosphere. From their mouth-watering slow smoke barbecue to comforting classics and live music, go to theGameNashville.com/deals to get a $50 gift card to Puckett's for only $25 while supplies last. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We're going to get into Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final between Edmonton and Florida coming up here in just a few minutes. Also, Preds made a trade yesterday, so we will get into that as well. 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. Your thoughts on the College World Series Finals tonight between Tennessee and Texas A&M, a winner-take-all game for the national championship. Joe, you can feel it. I mean, it felt like everybody around here was watching that game yesterday. And, obviously, and it felt similar to when, Vanderbilt was there. A lot of people watching Vanderbilt in the national championship game. Tennessee, I think, as we know, as a bigger fan base, so Vol Twitter was all in yesterday. But I think the buy-in pretty clearly is there. It was interesting. I was looking on StubHub to see what the ticket prices were. I remember for Game 1 on Friday, I mean, you couldn't get in the door for less than $450, and that was just like general admission. You can get in there for $90 tonight, baby. So if you're in the Omaha area and you're looking to get in the game tonight, I'd act right now if I were you on the secondary market.
Yeah, that's really interesting because there's some Texas A&M guys here at the hotel. They were like in my elevator, and they were talking about, oh gosh, dude, like, do I change my flight? Man, it's so expensive. I just don't know. Am I going to take Tuesday off of work and stuff? And it's like, it's like, I guess it makes sense because, people have jobs and the weekend's over, but also like you kind of just assume people sign up for the whole deal. Right. And sort of, I guess it's sort of like sign up to come and hope it ends in 2, right? Hope your team wraps it up in 2 and then you get out of here. But that's wild because Saturday. Oh man, the days are really messing with me. I had to keep going back in my column yesterday and change it Saturday to Sunday because I thought yesterday was Saturday.
I think I just said Friday, which was a game that did not exist.
There you go. Yeah, but so Saturday, the first game, Game 1, the StubHub, there was one ticket, and it wasn't even a great ticket for $8,732.
Jeez.
I'm like, hey, shoot your shot, man. Throw up a random number and see if someone will pay it. But the lowest tickets, even right before first pitch, were like $560. Which had gone up during the day. Like, scalpers outside the stadium, well, all they were doing was like, do you have any tickets? Like, they had nothing to sell. Yeah. So that's interesting that just a lot of people are, I guess, like, oh God, I didn't anticipate a third game, but it's still kind of surprising, right? Like if you came all the way out here and invested that you wouldn't account for one more game.
My guess is that's probably going to go up as the day goes along here. Like I wonder, like, are there any Tennessee fans that now that they know it's coming down to the night that would have been like in Knoxville all weekend and have just decided, all right, we're going up to Omaha today, taking the old St. Louis path like you did the other day?
That's a good question. I mean, there's probably somebody, right? I mean, that'd be a good story if anybody knew of somebody who was like, okay, a final day, I cannot miss this, And if you do that, that means you got a fair amount of, I don't know if it's confidence, but at least you're not worried about like showing up and then having your dreams crushed by the Aggies tonight.
It was interesting, we talked about Beam's performance yesterday. That's back-to-back in this College World Series run. 2 really nice performances by him. And, Vitello was talking about this yesterday, and it makes sense when you think about it. I mean, go look at his record when he's pitched. I mean, their record in general over the last 4 years has been outstanding. So it would stand to reason that Drew Beam's record's pretty good. But 2 pretty clutch performances from him in Omaha. We know that was it for him. I mean, we're not going to see him today, so his Tennessee career is over. But just a really masterful job by him in his 2 appearances in Omaha. Came through clutch against North Carolina, and then a big-time performance yesterday from a guy that's been around for a long time here. At least it feels like it, and has done a lot of winning for Tennessee.
Yeah, no, just going back to his freshman year when it was kind of like, I mean, I'm certainly a guy who wasn't really recruited by Vanderbilt. and then he goes in on a Sunday and beats Vanderbilt in Nashville, and then he kind of grew into that. Man, they have all these studs plus this Beam kid is like a legit starter, and I think his time here, I would think he's helped himself in the draft. He had a little bit of some struggles late season and things like that, but I mean, he can ramp it up. He's got really good movement on his fastball. Mixes his pitches well. He's a pro, and that was big time. And Combs too. I mean, Combs was man, he is a crafty pitcher. Incredible command of the curveball. He actually didn't even have great command of his fastball yesterday, which he talked about. I mean, he was high with the fastball, but the curveball, he has such command of that thing. He was just completely befuddling those Texas A&M hitters. So, again, he talked about. Apparently, he told Vitello, "No, man, I'm ready," but he pitched 60-plus pitches. He's not going to pitch tonight. And Vitello started crying a little bit, talking about him and what he's meant, and also later was like, he'd be a great hang, but I guess I'm too old.
Continues to come through clutch in the press conference. So, Joe, let's play this out, and let's say tonight Tennessee wins the national championship. And they do so, yes, because their lineup plays well, but they do so, and the main story coming out of tonight is they've won the title off of the back and off of the left arm of Xander Sechrist. What type of story would that be for him, for this group, if he is ultimately the difference and then winning a championship tonight?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I'm trying to think of like a comparison, So, like, again, go back to last year. I did a story on Kirby Connell, but I talked to Xander for it. And it was one of the weirdest interviews I've ever done, but it was hilarious. I mean, he actually was telling me that like left-handers shower differently, I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I don't have it in front of me, but it's like Kirby's like the type of dude, like crush some beers, take a nap, then come out of the bullpen and like, I mean, just like these guys are like, they've been the background, like they've had this thing in the press conferences, right, where they stand there and tell jokes. And he in particular, I was standing there when those guys came out of the hotel the other day, and like they all have their headphones on, and Vols fans are going. I mean, like about 1,000 people are crowded around the entrance of the Marriott. This poor dude in like an Arkansas shirt comes out and starts. So they're all walking out and everything, and then he walks out and he's like, "What's going on?" He's just like hugging everybody, and like, I mean, he's just having a blast. I'd love to. I need to think on this. Like, what are the parallels? Like someone who was, like lovable, but not a really key player. Like a good player, but he's not really a pro prospect and all this stuff. If he comes through and delivers another performance like that tonight, and then wins the title, it's a really unique story. I'm trying to think of other examples of this where it's like kind of like a role player cult hero all of a sudden becomes like a star delivering a championship.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see how he pitches tonight. Like if you're Tennessee, you want to give him a little bit more run support than they've been able to muster up so far. So I mean, that's really I think the big key to tonight's game is like can Tennessee's lineup really take off tonight? And if it can, you're feeling good about it. Yeah, can it be itself? Because I mean, you look 9 runs in 2 games. It's not horrible, but like Tennessee scored some 9 runs in an inning. Like it's some of these runs out here. So like I'm interested to see. That's probably the main thing. But man, if he comes out, let's say he gives them like 4 or 5 really good innings, what a story that would be.
Yeah, it's not realistic or fair to say, Xander, keep holding to a run or 2 over 6 innings, okay? If you can do that, we're good, buddy. No, it's not fair. But yeah, if he can keep the score down and give them like you said, 4 or 5. Get into the 5th, and they do their thing, then they're going to be in great shape.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. We will get back into Tennessee and the national championship game tonight a little bit later in the show, a little bit later next hour. Coming up next, we're going to get into the Stanley Cup Final, Game 7 tonight between Edmonton and Florida. When's the last time we saw a game on the surface that's this big? in the National Hockey League. We'll get into that. Also, the Preds made a trade yesterday. We'll get into that a little bit later next hour as well. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. Joe Rexrode live from Omaha in advance of Game 3 coming up tonight between Tennessee and Texas A&M, a winner-take-all for the national title game. We'll get back into that discussion a little bit later in the program. Also tonight, Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. The Edmonton Oilers have come back from down 0-3 in the series to force a Game 7 and a winner-take-all for the Stanley Cup tonight. That will be in Sunrise, Florida. Looking forward to that. Going to be an awesome night of sports. Looking forward to it. And, Joe, I was thinking, just in terms of the scope of this, I'm trying to remember the last time there was a game this big in the NHL. Obviously, I mean, there's a Stanley Cup every year. It wasn't that long ago. There was a Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Final. Ryan O'Reilly and the Blues won a Game 7 in Boston in 2019. So it's not like this is, the first Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Final in a long time. But I do think, like, when you factor in everything that's going on here, the fact that the best player in the world is on the verge of a Stanley Cup championship, an all-time great who, when his career's over, we're going to discuss as one of the handful of great players of all time, and Connor McDavid. The way that it's happened when they were down 0-3 and coming back to make this thing a 7-game series. If Edmonton pulls this off, I think they're the 5th team in the history of the league to come back from 0-3 down. So that on the surface of it, when you add in Game 7 Stanley Cup Final, but the way that things have transpired in this series, tonight is a massive game. And look, there are sexier matchups in the Stanley Cup Final than the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers. I fully realize that. But when you factor in everything that's going on in this series, and specifically the players involved in it, tonight is a massive game in the NHL. And I'm trying to think like the last one we had, it was this big.
Yeah, look, there may be sexier matchups in terms of markets, but these teams you're talking about, I still think the best team that as we've kind of seen unfold in the playoffs. And then you're certainly talking about the best player who, by the way, that's one of the wildest things about the last game. So I think it was the 7th game of his career, of McDavid's career, in which he had no point, right?
In the playoffs, yeah.
The 7th playoff game.
Yeah.
Okay. I read that. That's weird because I thought I saw something where it was like February of something or whatever. Okay, so it was just the 7th playoff game. That's still wild. But like also the first time they'd ever won one, right?
Yeah.
And so obviously they're not just completely on his back, but it's fascinating. And I don't know, man, I go back to a heartbreaking night for me, which was the last game of the season in 2009.
Yep.
When I was in Pittsburgh because of Katie was there for a work trip. So I had to be around all these Penguins fans watching Game 7, which was back in Detroit.
Yep.
And listening to them, somewhat shocked that they won Game 7 in Detroit. Like, that was a great 2 years with the Penguins and Wings. You going back 15 years, there just aren't many like this. Bottom line, and just the magnitude of what it would mean for McDavid, for the Oilers to pull this off, and also what it would mean for the Panthers to blow this.
Yeah.
I like what Wyshynski said the other day. He's like, I hear all the stuff about, hey, they're, you say all the right things, but I don't think it's your dream to be up 3-0 and then blow a 3-0 lead and be playing in Game 7. Might be a dream to play in Game 7 Stanley Cup Final, but not when you're up 3-0.
You could make the argument, if they lose this, that it's the biggest collapse in the history of sports. And because of the stage, like everybody thinks of the Yankees, Red Sox.
That's where I went
even
right
that
away.
was, that was the championship series, not the World Series. There's the Cleveland Golden State part of this where Cleveland came back from 3-1 down with LeBron. So we've seen some collapses. Look, everybody also points to 28-3 with Falcons Patriots. Like, to me, that's a little different because it's one game. Like, it's a one-game thing. When you're in a series, it's just hard to compare those two things. But I think in terms of, like, the 4 major sports in our country, you can make a pretty good argument this would be the biggest collapse ever if they blow this.
Yeah, it's certainly it gets listed with all those that you just said. Those are the ones that come right to mind. I mean, it's a fair point on the Warriors, and of course, if Draymond doesn't have the suspension, it probably doesn't happen. They probably win that series in 5, but yeah, this gets mentioned with any that you want to throw out there. 28-3 is probably the best that you have from a football perspective. Obviously, just a different situation in football, but man, it's up there. And then where is the flip side of that?
Yeah.
Like Edmonton has obviously a championship history. They have a GOAT history, but if this team pulls it off, where does that? Yeah, where does that rank with all of their other amazing long ago achievements?
Well, it's a legacy sealer for McDavid, right? Like if they, regardless of what he does from here on out, and look, the expectation when you're as good as he is multiple championships. So I'm not saying like he can just coast on out from here and that's it, because I do think when you get to the end of his career and you're compared to Crosby and Gretzky and Lemieux, like they've all got multiple championships. So he's got more work to do if he pulls this off, but they ain't never done this. Down 0-3 and coming back in a series and just basically willing your team to victory. Now, like you said, Game 6, he wasn't a huge factor, didn't get on the score sheet, and they played great in that game. And that's what – look, momentum is a funny thing in the playoffs. A lot of times it really doesn't translate from game to game, but it just feels like Edmonton is in total control right now. So we're gonna wait and see what happens tonight, but it's been amazing the way that this thing has kind of flipped. When they won Game 4 8-1, my first thought in the aftermath of that game, Joe, was, oh, that's cute, 8-1. I'm glad they got a nice little game in there before Florida goes back in Game 5 and wins the Stanley Cup. And if they're able to go on the road and pull this off and come all the way back, I mean, it's legendary. It's a legacy sealer for McDavid if he does it.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I suppose he's probably the Conn Smythe winner. No matter what happens tonight, you still believe that?
That would be my guess.
And also the last game, I think we've talked so much in this postseason about obviously road team success, right? And Oilers are going to need that tonight. That felt like the place was too bonkers. There was too much energy. They were like, it was just too much.
It really did
for Florida, right? So I mean, can Florida manufacture that tonight?
Well, I think there is apparently like half of Edmonton is coming down for this. Like they're buying up tickets left and right on the secondary market.
So that's wild, and that's the hard part about obviously it has been for Florida. I mean, it's just they haven't had I guess the fan base that other teams have. That's going to be wild if it's like a neutral site game. And what does that do for both of these teams? Because I think you really saw home ice mattering last game for sure.
Let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Adam in Portland. Adam, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
What's up, boys? Hey, man, I think y'all are right about the significance of this too, man. But doesn't it feel like the Preds' last game was like 6 months ago?
It does feel like a while ago.
I had to sit here while I'm sitting here listening to y'all. I was like, who put us out in Vancouver? Okay, and I'm like, is that long ago? Like, and I was so in it when I was in it. But dude, it just goes to prove like how far above us these teams are right now. I'm excited to watch this last game. I want to see Ekholm win something to make that like that. Hopefully, it's a good trade for both of us. I think so far it's a good trade for both of us. But the Canadian drought is a big part of this too, dude. Like I don't know. Like the whole thing is super intriguing to me. I will say that on y'all's show last week, y'all were like 0-3 talking about basketball and hockey, and y'all and everybody was saying it was going to be over right after that. So you're right about one, not about this one, man. I think Edmonton takes care of business tonight. If it got into overtime, I will say that, man. It's my last thing. If it gets to overtime, I've never seen Game 7 Stanley Cup, which I think Game 7 in Stanley Cup Finals is the best event in sports. Can you imagine if it goes to overtime tonight, the anxiety?
Man, so it's going to be awesome. Adam, thanks for the call. I am pulling heavily, Joe, for Game 7 overtime. And I realize we do a morning show, and it'd be pretty late night, but I'll take it. I'm pulling heavily for overtime tonight. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, wait till you see what the zombie I am on this show tomorrow anyway. So is it wrong of me if it goes overtime, if I tell us talking and saying all these amazing things about a natty and I'm just streaming the hockey game tonight? Is that unprofessional of me?
I say you lean into it. He might decide to watch with you. Who knows?
That's true, actually.
He's
He's a hockey guy. Shout out Bob Probert.
Shout out Bob Probert. 615-737-1025. Our phone number will take your thoughts on the Stanley Cup final, plus a trade by the Nashville Predators yesterday that has ruffled the feathers of some. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Taken out now by Afanasiev. Afanasiev sends it in well ahead there of Jankowski. Jankowski tried to block the clear. Turning around, Afanasiev got the goal. Igor Afanasiev spun around in front of the net, which had been left momentarily by Markstrom. And the Predators take a 1-0.
Preds with a trade yesterday. Igor Afanasyev off to San Jose, a second-round pick by the Nashville Predators in the 2019 NHL draft. So Igor ended up playing 19 games for the Predators. 19 games. That was the one goal that he scored on the highlight coming back there from Nick Keyser. And now he is a member of the San Jose Sharks. Joe, some people upset yesterday when Afanasyev was traded on Preds Twitter, which I understand. Afanasyev is, and you and I have talked about this, got a fantastic personality. He has been on our radio station. He has been, I've interviewed him several times. Great guy, awesome guy, really good personality. I think, though, Joe, it was becoming more and more clear that a long-term roster spot for him was not really going to happen here. I mean, they are kind of moving on. You know, you got LaRue coming up. You got Tomasino and Parson you got to get figured out. They brought Afanasyev up for I don't know if it was 2 or 3 games this past year, and then he was a healthy scratch for 2 weeks, and then they sent him back down to Milwaukee. So not a ton of time for Afanasyev, and the Predators have moved on in the trade yesterday. What do you make, first off, of the decision to move on from him and how you thought maybe he was going to fit into the roster moving forward here? And then we'll get to the other part of this that I want to get to here in just a second.
Yeah, well, there was a time when I think he looked like someone who had a chance. And as we've revisited the topic of prospects and who might factor in and all that. And I mean, when's the last time we mentioned Igor? You know, like you said, I mean, everybody loves the guy, but I think it's a pretty, to me, kind of insignificant move just in terms of it just wasn't quite there for him, you know?
Yeah.
Got a text in the text line that we have to get to. I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but I find it fascinating. Okay. All right, well, let's get to this from Wayne. He says, Trotz definitely has a bias against Russian players. The only 2 players traded at the deadline were Russian, Trenin and Gurianov. Now Afanasyev's traded for a bag of pucks. Will Askarov be next? I think so. Then Svechkov will be the only Russian left to get rid of. So he's like okay. Don Cherry? Oh, these Canadian boys, get these commies out of here, eh?
We got to get all the Russians out. Is that what we think?
One week we're going to stink, and this guy sucks, and then I suck.
Real quick, I used to love watching. Nice, that was nice. I used to love watching Hockey Night in Canada. He would just lose his mind about my beloved Russian Five. Oh, yeah. Don Cherry just losing his mind. Fantastic. I don't think that's it, Wayne. I mean, I don't think that's it. Igor, I think there's a ceiling, and we've kind of seen it, haven't we?
I think so. Look, there's no doubt in my mind that there's some serious overrating of Igor Afanasyev from Predators fans going on here. I mean, it is what it is. Like I said it last year, and I remember saying it last year, and people got mad at me. He's not an NHL player. He's not.
He's a darn good AHL player, which some people value over NHL players.
He might turn into, like a halfway decent fourth liner. But to me, he's not an NHL player. And look, they got back Ozzy Weisblatt for him, who spent part of last season with Milwaukee. I think he had 16 games, had like a goal and 5 assists or something like that. So it's a minor league transaction. It's really to me not a huge deal, not a mover or shaker in terms of what they've done here, affecting the roster all that much moving forward. The part of it that I think if you're a Predators fan that bothers you is this, and I just went through this yesterday, Joe, as a general exercise. 2017 NHL draft by the Nashville Predators. Eeli Tolvanen played in 264 games, or I guess has played in 264 games. David Ferentz played in 2 for the Predators, and that is it. Those are the only 2 players that have played in an NHL game from the 2017 class. In 2018, Spencer Stastny has played in 28 NHL games. That is it. That is the only player. Now, granted, in 2018, they didn't have a pick until the 4th round. Stastny was a 5th-round pick, and the other 3 guys have not made it to the league. 2019, Tomasino in the 1st round, who's played 148 games. You have Afanasyev in the 2nd round, who played 19 games for your team. Del Gaizo in the 4th has played 9 games, so we'll see on him. And then Parsonen has played 89 games, and he was a 7th-round pick. We'll see on him. That's it. That's all you've got in 2017, 2018, 2019. Now, to be fair, that was the prime years of going for it for the Predators, right? I mean, they made the Cup final in 2017, 2018. They won the President's Trophy. So, I think that was the year they gave up the first-round pick for Ryan Hartman and did all that stuff. 2019, they traded for Granlund and Boyle and Simmons and all that. So there was a lot of forfeiting of future assets going on at that time. But that's a 3-year stretch there of from 17 to 19 where you have, I think the way I phrased it yesterday, was just this side of nothing to show for those drafts in 2017, 2018, 2019.
Yeah, that's a rough stretch, man. That is a rough go. I mean, and the thing is, I knew from the start Tolvanen wasn't going to be very good. I mean, I kept writing in the Tennessean, and people didn't want to listen to me, man. I was like, keep the expectations down. What are you people talking about? No, that's not it at all what I did. No, that's a rough go without question. I mean, it kind of reminds me of like that stretch we talk about, the J-Rob stretch, that sort of flipped him from having this fantastic roster to all of a sudden you start messing up the drafts and it goes bad for you.
Yeah. Now, since then we'll see. It's hard to really judge the 2020 and more recent draft picks since then. I mean, Evangelista looks good. We'll see about Askarov. So there's still from then on basically to be determined on the draft front. But like moving forward here, we talked about the Dallas Stars and some of the biggest differences between why they're making deep runs and the Predators aren't. Yes, they've got good veteran players. They've also drafted extremely well, and that's what the Predators have to get back to.
Yeah, absolutely. And this the Afanasyev thing, like Chip from Mount Juliet, I just don't understand the trade. Yeah, he's a minor league player, guys. I mean, this is not one I expected would have turned into like a point of contention. Is that Vingan in the text line dropping knowledge for us?
I think so.
Is Vingan guest texting today on our program?
I think he is. I kind of respect it.
He asked Wayne who was Trotz's captain when the Capitals won the Stanley Cup. Wayne, who was it?
Afanasyev had a good season in Milwaukee, right? I mean, 56 games, 27 goals, 27 assists, 54 points. He had a good year in Milwaukee. I think clearly, either from a system standpoint or from just looking at where his situation is right now, the Predators did not feel like he was ready to be a full-time player. Like, I mean, it's pretty clear. They didn't feel like he was ready to be a full-time player. So, look, maybe he goes to San Jose. And, look, you talk about a good situation. You go to San Jose, you're probably going to have a pretty good chance to make that team, right? Like, we're going to find out because they are awful, and they are in the middle of a rebuild, and you would think that he's got a pretty good chance to make that squad. So maybe this does turn into a situation where you look back and you say, good Lord, the Predators botched Eeli Tolvanen. They lost him for nothing, and then now they've turned around and Afanasyev turns out to be a player in San Jose. I can tell you from the limited sample size that I've seen from him at the NHL, there's nothing that he ever did where I was just like, oh, okay, all right. He's right on the doorstep of being an NHL player.
And I think fans have to realize too, and I want to add it, there wasn't an interest to keep him around. It's very evident. You guys have said it, but I think from him it didn't sound like it as well. So there is that to go off of as well. And Robby, you had great context. I want to throw this out there too. Obviously, we know Scott Hartnell has the most career points drafted by the Predators. He had 707 points. Yossi needs 22 more points to break that, but he's a D-man. The next best forward is also Craig Smith behind Scott Hartnell. I want to throw this out there too really quickly. Just Evangelista, Tomasino, and Parsonen have played at least 89 games, and only Evangelista and Tomasino have played in at least 104 NHL games. So that's also looking at it on its face in the last 5 draft classes. Now, given we know this 23 draft class has to still come out, same as basically 22, but there is context in terms of draft success that is very evident right now.
Well, so, they just don't have a lot of it.
Yeah, there's nothing.
They've got it's got to get better. Like that's and look, we'll see. Again, I have no idea if their 23 class is going to be good or not. I like the idea of Matthew Wood. I like what I've seen from him at college, but I don't know what he's going to be at the NHL level. I'm really excited about Molendyk. I think Molendyk might be one of the best prospects they've got in their system. But I don't know. We'll see what happens for him in the NHL.
And they need more although they need defensemen too
Yeah.
right now, but they need that to be more the thing with forwards. Yeah, Igor is he's clearly behind all these guys. We aren't sure about what they're going to be.
Right.
I mean, Crash Davis led the Miners in home runs. Sometimes that's just what you are.
615-737-1025. More reaction coming up on the text line. The Preds Stanley Cup Final, Vols in the National Championship game tonight. Take it any way you want to take it. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, the game. Join us this July 4th at the 18th Annual Music City Hot Chicken Festival at East Park. A spectacular day packed with live music, contests, and, of course, hot chicken. It's free, so bring the whole family. Discover more at hotchickenfestival.com. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, broadcasting live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Joe Rexrode is live from Omaha, where, Joe, somebody very concerned that we're not talking enough Tennessee baseball, even though we spent the entire first hour, about to spend the entire third hour, and are getting back into it right now. So about 90% of the show.
My goodness, jumping all over us, man. Yeah, we have explored Tennessee baseball, but we will do more. We will do more exploring.
We will do more exploring, no doubt about that. People still, we're getting some texts, very mad about Afanasiev.
Yeah, like, I'm not going to read this whole text. This is one of those, like, sorry that happened to you, or congrats, or whatever. My favorite tweet of all time.
Yes.
What is it? What's the?
Well,
like,
I
ain't reading all that.
Actually,
I ain't reading all that. But congrats, or I ain't reading all that. But congrats, or sorry that happened to you.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
But the bottom line is, it's like this idea that, the point being made here is that there's frustration in general. It's not just Igor, but the organization seems to overcook the prospects, and they're not good enough. We both responded on the text line, but again, like, okay, so how come Evangelista's up here doing well in the NHL? You know why? Because he's good enough.
He's a good player.
The problem is evaluating players and choosing players, right? Like I don't think there's like great players that they're like, no, you would have stayed in Milwaukee, Igor. I don't care that you'd be great in the NHL. You know,
like
I mean, like they're not good enough, and so that's the frustration that you should have.
I know Barry Trotz talks about he'd rather overcook guys, and that's probably true. And maybe they will run into a situation where they leave a guy down there too long. I think you could make an argument that they've left Stasny down there too long. Like Stasny was ready to play, and Stasny should have been up this year more than he was. So like you can make arguments that maybe they'll leave some guys down there too long. But like, do we honestly believe that had the Predators got into the, let's say they magically got the first overall pick last year and they got Connor Bedard, that they'd be like, well, you go back to junior. We'll see you here in a couple years when you're ready and you've worked out a little bit more and you're ready to go. Yeah. It's like, no, if they get really good players, I promise you they'll play at the NHL.
Yeah, and so I'd love to know how, I guess, prevalent this opinion is, but Brandon comes in on the text line and says it's less about the Preds' ability to draft forwards and more their inability to develop them. I just don't agree. People like Tolvanen, and obviously they made a mistake in terms of how he was let go, but I mean, what is he? I mean, is he lighting the league on fire, or is it because they didn't develop him? He's just not what they hoped he was going to be.
Decent. He's a decent player. He's a third line guy.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I just strongly disagree with that, Brandon. Again, Evangelista, the rare example of a guy rising and I think he's on his way to a really good career. So did he ignore all their development advice and like went rogue, and that's why he's doing what he's doing, or is it that they made a good choice there and they're not making nearly enough good choices otherwise?
Well, again, maybe look, I'll leave open the possibility that they've made a bad choice here. Like if Afanasyev goes to San Jose and he plays really well and he becomes an established good NHL player, then the joke's on me. Like, I'm just telling you, based on what I've seen, and this is the only thing I can go off of is what I've seen. What I have seen from him at training camp, what I have seen from him at the NHL level when he's been up, he's not done anything that's been remotely close to suggesting that he should be a full-time NHL player. Nothing.
I will not leave open that possibility.
There you go. Rexrode's closing the door.
It's literally impossible.
It is literally impossible. 615-737-1025. Should we keep going with this, or should we get back into the Vols before people freak out and lose their mind?
I mean, I do not want to slap Vols fans in the face in this town.
I don't either.
The way the Titans have already done so. I mean, I know.
We're going to end up talking. We got 12 segments in the show. We're going to end up talking about the Vols, about 10 of them, but I guess that's not enough.
Well, people are kind of fired up about this hockey stuff, though. I'm just saying.
They are.
It's a big day in baseball and in hockey, folks.
It is. Two things can be true. We've discussed the path to get here for Tennessee. The first game was kind of jarring in some ways because they were down so quickly, and then you looked up and they were down ton on the scoreboard. They got the offense going a little bit later in the game in game one. Too little, too late. They lose the game 9-5. And then yesterday, it was funny in some ways because they got down early, 1-0. And I happened to log on to Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, and it was just meltdown left and right on Vol Twitter. And I was like, I've got the YouTube TV, Joe, and I was like, did this thing pause and start buffering? And I just didn't catch up to it. Like, are they in the 7th inning? And then I looked up and I was like, oh, it's the top of the 3rd. Okay. All right. A lot of freaking out going on Vol Twitter yesterday. The team stuck with it. Dreiling gets the big home run to put them up 2-1. And then Cal Stark with an absolute bomb to put them up 4-1. And that sets up a winner-take-all national championship game night. So I am excited to see how Vol Twitter, the roller coaster, goes tonight because, man, it was a doozy yesterday when they were down 1-0 in the 3rd inning.
So I saw your tweet yesterday, about tweeting through it when it's 1-0. And, it's like I can't keep too much attention. I'm trying to, I'm in the press box and trying to, make a bunch of notes and all that stuff. So Charlie Burris, who not meaning to pick on Charlie.
He was one that I saw.
Also, by the way, was adamant about the slap in the face element of the Will Levis choice.
Yes, he was.
I'm going back through his timeline. First of all, you got so this is during the game. This is early. So Texas A&M was the actual team of destiny. Got it. Then there's a gif of Matthew Perry and friends. Kill me now. And then, again, this is early in the game. I'll never not be amazed by the ways we find to not show up when it matters most. No matter the sport, we do some version of this every time. And then he retweeted that a little later in the game. And then, of course, you have the all caps, like, you know. But yeah, look, again, I'm not meaning to pick on Charlie here. I think that's representative.
Oh, it wasn't just him.
No, of course not. But I think that is representative of the just the absolute quick going to the, oh my gosh, we're not going to do it again. And tonight,
the BVS was back in there big time, baby. Battered ball syndrome was flowing yesterday.
Yeah. So, I mean, I do get it. I do think, like, in general, like baseball, we've talked about this, but like a football fan base, sometimes like the overreactions to like baseball and basketball can be like, dude, it's not football, right? But tonight is that. Tonight is, it's everything on one game. So, whew, what all the takes and all the reactions, and I mean even just the day of anticipation is going to be something else for Tennessee fans.
It's going to be a big day of anticipation, and then if they're able to pull it off, I mean, you can feel it. Like that was one of the really cool things this weekend, and I knew this would be the case. But like Tennessee's fan base is all in. Like, you know, they've been all in on Vitello for a while, but like it felt like watching a big football game just on the social media reaction yesterday. And if they win the title today, it's going to be awesome. And you know, like we've talked about this. The Tennessee fan base is starving here for a championship of some kind. And now they're right on the door. They're right on the doorstep of it. They have a winner-take-all game tonight. If they lose tonight, Joe, I mean, it's going to be soul-crushing, and Vol Twitter is going to have an absolute meltdown. And if they win, there's going to be just pure elation. I mean, you're going to see, you know, grown men crying in the stands tonight. So first off, the range of different outcomes here and the emotions of what could happen tonight, it's part of what makes sports great. But this is a fan base that you can feel it. I mean, they're on the verge of something that they've been chasing and starving after for a long time. And not just in the baseball front, but just in general.
Speaking of Twitter, I've also seen some fantastic tweets from other fan bases, like this Clemson fan who was like, he tweeted out like a video of like this, like the ridiculous Texas A&M yell practice stuff. There's so many like great videos of that, right? And it's like, I can't believe Tennessee is making us root for these people, you know? My column yesterday, there's a comment on it from a Boots C, my column in The Athletic. It says, Tennessee, please break the hearts of the most insufferable fan base in college sports. Amen. Got 30 likes so far on that one. So then a lot of back and forth with that. So yeah, there's also the outside reaction to this. Obviously Vanderbilt, but it's not just Vanderbilt. I think there's a lot of fan bases who are like, please don't let Tennessee win a title.
Well, and I'll say, you know, we joked about it earlier, but you know, Vitello was going nuts to begin the game yesterday at the umps. And there was a lot of chirping online going on about Vitello from a lot of different fan bases. I mean, the A&M fans were like, "Look at this jerk! Look at this idiot in there in the dugout." But there was a lot of Vitello hate from outside fan bases. It somehow ended up on my Twitter feed yesterday, which I enjoyed. It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's wild how intense he gets during. And I thought the same thing. I'm like, it's the third pitch, but as Vol Twitter set me straight, thank you, Vol Twitter. You know, they sent me video of like, look at this strike against us in the top of the first, and now look at this ball, the same pitch. I'm like, hey, you came with the film like already, and we're in the first inning. Where is this going? If you're in the first inning, you're already breaking down film for me. I will just stand back and let Tony scream. And then when he came out to like, yeah, Cal Stark, you know, he was like, yeah, but I'm gonna yell, and my voice is gonna reach the umpire's ears. You know,
yes.
I mean, but it all calmed down from there, and I think these strike zones. I mean, it's all about consistency. Establish a strike zone, and then just have the same strike zone. I think it ended up being okay yesterday.
I got a texter that says Vitello is the whiniest grown man on the earth. An unnamed texter, the whiniest grown man on the earth. What do we think of that, Joe? I could probably think of a couple whinier people.
Yeah, whiny is, I think it's more just, I mean, he gets so angry so quickly sometimes, right?
He does.
Jackson says, everyone universally hates UT, worst fan base in sports, and I have no college team or bias, just the facts. Jackson, come on. You have no college teamer bias, Jackson. I don't believe you.
Dennis says, and Christian Moore acting like a child after a walk. The Vol baseball is
mad.
under attack on the text line right now. Under attack.
Christian Moore was definitely talking some trash.
Yes, he was.
I have a hard time believing that there wasn't some going back the other way. You know what I mean? You usually figure there's a little bit, but he's intense out
Maybe
there.
not.
I mean,
maybe he just let it fly.
I mean, after the walk where then he ended up scoring the run when he tagged up and got to second and hurt himself, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just screaming at the dugout to get going. That was great because I don't know if it was on the broadcast, but like in the press box, we picked up the mic quite a bit from home plate. So we got some nice F-bombs and whatnot randomly in the press box really loud.
We are operating under the assumption that he is going to be okay tonight, by the way, right? Christian Moore?
He said yes for sure. But, no player is going to be like, yeah, well, I'm questioning. I mean, Tony said he hadn't really been able to, figure it out yesterday. So, certainly he'll be in the lineup. Is it possible, they would have to switch it up at second? I mean, maybe, but that would not be ideal, So, I'm guessing he'll be okay. He seemed to be moving all right after they looked at him.
615-737-1025. I got a texture that says, they hate us because they ain't us. Going to come to the event, the Defensive Vol Twitter. So
there you go.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Coming up next, it's time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning here on the program. Corey Curtis from News 2 at 8 o'clock. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment, let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
Shout out Tony Vitello and Brown Noise and Bob Probert.
Can't you see this, Joe? It's inconsistent. Because I'm in a bathroom crying with just a lot of emotions.
Strike three!
What an interesting conglomeration that was, thrown together by Nick Keyser. It's that time of the day. Time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning here on the program. Corey Curtis from News 2 coming up at 8 o'clock. Joseph live from Omaha, Nebraska. The floor is yours.
Shout out Nick Keyser. Shout out Bob Probert. So, first of all, I want to talk a little bit about parents, but baseball parents. But first of all, I have to get into the one Vol Twitter thing that I'm going to have to go ahead and call out today, because, people get upset, people get mad, and I get that, and especially if it's going badly for your team. I mean, you have to, you got to give people some grace, right?
Sure.
Even if they don't give you grace,
yeah.
Right? I think that's what we need to do. However, yesterday I tweeted that the last play of the game, Nate Snead's in for Tennessee, and Ryan Targak, Aggies pinch hitter, launches one, and we're sitting there in the press box like, and Kavaris Tears is going back, and then you see him come in just a little bit. He's on the warning track, and he catches it, balls win, celebrating, all that stuff. So my tweet was, oh my, Ryan Targak missed a tying through-in homer by about a millimeter on that swing. Balls win 4-1. Someone wins a natty on this field Monday night. And so people started, I got somebody like, oh, how about 10 feet? I got a Vol Twitterer saying Jared's troll shtick is starting to rub off. I'm like,
wow,
I wasn't trolling. And when I say a millimeter on the swing, that's what I'm talking about. Not where the ball landed.
If he had missed the swing by 10 feet, that would have been some serious talent.
That would have been. So anyway, just needed to call that out a little bit. But there was a lot of interesting sights and sounds here in Omaha. So I'm about to go over to the team hotel the other day, and I see on Twitter, Big Joe has all these pictures of like a collage of pictures from the team hotel, and it's like, look at this crowd, this is amazing. I'm like, first of all, I'm like, oh my God, Big Joe's here, this is gonna be so much fun. And so I'm like, man, I go over there and I see it, and it's exactly like, it's like, holy crap, this is insane. So I took some video and all that stuff. And then I talked to some of the Vols parents. I was going to go meet them at the tailgate, and again, I'm seeing Big Joe tweeting like pictures from the tailgate, and it's like, oh dude, this is gonna be here. So I went to the tailgate, and I walked up to this guy. I'm like, there's Big Joe. And I walked up, and this guy was playing cornhole like behind him. And then it wasn't him. I'm like, oh, yeah, I didn't say anything, but it was one of those things like, oh, I stopped walking towards someone.
Yep. It's
like, I'm looking all over for Big Joe. And so finally I talked to the Bankies. This is Andrew Banky is, Donaldson Christian Academy. He tweets about him a lot. The Donaldson lefty, right? Another cult hero for this Tennessee team, sophomore lefty reliever. And I'm like, so where the heck is Joe? Where's Joe? He's tweeting all these pictures, and Rob is like, yeah, I'm his source on that. And I'm like, we need to get Paul Kuharski in on this sucker right now. Get him, Kuharski. Get him. Big Joe. Because I seriously, like, I'm looking at these tweets, and I'm like, bro, like you are here, right? You can't possibly be tweeting these pictures. Look at this. I'm looking at look at the scene. He's got like 3 pictures. Oh man, let's go. All this stuff. Kuharski, get after Big Joe. However, I also must thank Big Joe, because he's the one who gave me the idea about Christy Banky's heart rate, which has gotten as high as 134 when her son pitches. She has an Apple Watch. Does anybody else out there? I didn't even know you could do this. Anybody else who do this with your Apple Watch? Anybody have an Apple Watch?
Talking about like the heart rate part?
Yeah, like, like I'm stupid. I'm like, oh, you can actually, because when Joe's telling me this story, I'm like, do they have like a defibrillator? They're like, what are they doing? However they figure this out. But yes, that's cool. I mean, I even bought Katie an Apple Watch for Christmas one year, and I didn't even realize it does heart rate. But for those who know heart rate, you know that your standing heart rate is supposed to be about somewhere between usually like 60 to 100, more like maybe in the 80 to 100 range. Um, if you're working out intensely, it can get up into the 120s usually, right? So if you are standing there and your heart rate's 134, that a doctor would say you have a serious heart issue. You must go to the hospital right now. But that's what it is. That's what this is. So I just really this rant is I just gotta shout out baseball parents. We are not baseball parents. We have friends who are. Anybody who is a baseball parent, you understand like it is a different level of travel and like involvement and time, I believe, than any other sport. And I know soccer parents will say, whoa, it's not too different. I mean, we had 7-on-7 football going everywhere, but baseball parents, like the days, the all day,
Yeah.
and then another game and the heat and the travel. And these baseball parents have been here for freaking 2 weeks. Like they're in the Marriott, they're over there, they're in the business center doing their jobs. Some of them have driven back and forth. The Russells, AJ Russell's parents drove back Franklin back and forth 12 hours for this stuff. And with all that's on at stake tonight, these baseball parents, shout them out, man. Because I mean, talk about hearts in your throats tonight, and talk about the stakes emotionally of this game. As much as Vols fans want this, think about the people who are personally involved in this. And really the kids get to play. They get to do it. But if you're a parent of these kids, think about what is at stake for you emotionally tonight. So that's my rant. Shout them out.
Well, obviously I do not have experience with my 11-month-old daughter playing sports yet, but I do have to imagine that watching your kid play sports, particularly watching him play sports at a high level in a pressure-packed situation like this, has got to just be awful. I mean, you're super proud of him. It's fun. It's all that stuff. But I would imagine that like watching them is just an immensely nerve-wracking experience. Like I'd rather be out there facing it myself 10 times out of 10 rather than watching my daughter do it.
Yeah, no, man. Well, I mean, and we have been goalie parents for many years. That's tough. Goalie parent is tough. But I would argue, I was thinking about this and I kind of wrote it today in my comments, like, what is more nerve-wracking than being a pitcher parent?
Yeah.
Because the game is on your kid's hands.
Yeah.
And the Bankies, by the way, their daughter pitches for Trevecca. So like they are pitcher parents times two. But the game is on your kid's hands every single play. Your kid is the focal point of the game every single play. And of course it's his or her fault if it goes wrong, and it's all the glory blame quarterback. So it's kind of like quarterback, but even to me it's like the whole thing it just starts with the pitcher, right? So if you're a parent, and I have not been that, but I have to imagine pitcher parent has to be way high on the list of stressful parenting duties.
No doubt about it. Can I give a quick 30-second mini rant here?
Yeah.
All right. Our friend Wayne on the text line, which we love Wayne. We appreciate Wayne. Wayne is a faithful listener of our show. He was the one that talking about the Trotz bias against Russian players earlier. And Vengen's response to him was like, okay, so who was Barry Trotz's captain when the Capitals won a Stanley Cup? And as we know, that's Ovechkin. And Wayne's response was, Trotz inherited Ovechkin, who had been appointed by McPhee and Boudreau years before. And my response, and I want to know Wayne's answer, do you actually believe that if Barry Trotz had his choice, he would have gotten rid of Alex Ovechkin? I really need to hear you, Wayne, because I hope you don't believe that.
Come on, Wayne. Wayne's on one today.
Wayne is.
Get
Ovechkin out! Get him out!
He needs to ask him about this.
I know he's scoring 60 a year, but get him out. Wayne, come on. 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Corey Curtis from News 2. We'll get his thoughts on the Vols, their pursuit for a national championship tonight. Coming up next, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. And as we do every Monday morning at 8 o'clock, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Corey Curtis from News 2. Corey, good morning. How are you?
What's up?
We were just talking about nerve-wracking watching your children play sports, like Tennessee's baseball's parents watching your children play. What's it like for you? Are you nervous? Have you gotten over it? How do we feel watching the children play sports?
Man. No, I mean, my daughter's 11 and a half, and so she's playing U12 soccer now. And I always tell everybody, if you gave me a choice between watching the Titans, the Preds, Nashville SC, or my daughter's U12 soccer, she's going to win every time. I mean, when you've got that personal investment in it, and it's not that you want them to win. Well, I guess for some parents, they want their kids to win or lose. You just want them to do well. I mean, you're with them every step, every pitch, every shot. And, you know, every time it's a good one, you're like excited and relieved at the same time. And every one that doesn't go so well, you just die a little bit on the inside, just going, because you want it to be perfect for them. So it's definitely different when you have kids, because it's just so personal. And, you know, every parent I know wants more for their kids than they have for themselves, and so you want it even more for them.
Yep, no doubt about it. So a winner-take-all game tonight, Corey, for the Tennessee Volunteers in the national title game. They lose game one. They come back, even things up yesterday with the 4-1 win, and then game number 3 coming up tonight. What have you made of Tennessee's run to this point and the opportunity now in front of them to win a national championship tonight against Texas A&M?
Well, I like that they've continued to pretty much largely do things kind of the same way. You know, they've had quality pitching, they've played great defense, and they've hit the long ball. I mean, that's what they did all year. That's what they did yesterday. And, you know, they didn't panic yesterday. They kept working on pitching counts and, you know, kept taking their hacks the way they take them. And it only took 2. I mean, like when you get a performance like that out of the bullpen, you shouldn't lose many games. That was pretty ungodly. You got to have guys step up. And, you know, Cal Stark, another guy, I think he was 0 for 16 in the series. Yeah. And then he hits that 2-run homer. You know, that's a definition of a guy who's still up there. He's 0 for 16. He could be a complete basket case at the plate. I would be at that point. I'd be humiliated. And he hits a 2-run bomb to help launch his team into a winner-take-all game. So they've clearly got the guts. They've clearly got the moxie. They've clearly got the confidence. And we know they've got the ability. And like I said, and they've got, you know, the formula to win, and they've just continued to execute all of those things. You know, the problem is they're playing a really good team. And as I say all the time on this show, you can play really well and lose when you play another really good team. It's possible. So they could play great today and still lose 4-3, and everybody could, you know, bemoan the missed opportunity, but, you know, it happens. It's going to happen for one of these two teams.
If Tennessee does win, Corey, what's the magnitude? What are the ripple effects? What does it mean?
Well, it's huge for Vitello and that program, you know, to get over the top of that mountain. I always know once you win the first one, it's easier to win the second. That may sound ridiculous, but I covered Ray Tanner in South Carolina, and they struggled to get to Omaha. You know, they had some, you know, super regional failures when they absolutely shouldn't have. And once they got to Omaha, you know, all of a sudden they were winning some games. And then once they won the national title, they won a few of them. And, you know, Tim Corbin was the same way. They had that heartbreak against Michigan, you know, and then once they got there, though, you know, and then got over the hump, you know, as a program, when you set an expectation, and Tennessee's won more games than any team in college baseball the last 4 years. So they've set an expectation to win. But when you set a championship expectation, and that's what this would do, I think it's different. And it would put Vitello at a different level as well. You know, we saw people come after Corbin here. I think Auburn twice, LSU, Texas,
Oregon.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people with a lot of money. And that's going to happen to Tennessee with Vitello, especially if they win. You know, I don't know who needs them right now. I haven't looked at the college baseball landscape. But some other big-time baseball programs will come after him because that's what you do. That's what you should do. I mean, look, if I was an SEC program or an ACC program right now, and I was in the middle tier or the bottom tier of my conference, and I was making a coaching change, that would probably be the first call I would make and see what it would take to get him.
Corey, on ABC tonight at the same time, we'll have the Stanley Cup Final going on, Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. Edmonton down 0-3 in the series, and they come all the way back, and a winner-take-all tonight for the Stanley Cup as well. Connor McDavid been unbelievable in this. What have you made of the way that this series has played out, and can you think of the last time we saw a hockey game this big when you factor in the series, the players involved, and the way this series has gone down with Florida on the verge of one of the biggest collapses in the history of sports?
Yeah, how about, remember that United States-Canada gold medal game?
Oh, yeah.
That was an awesome game. And I'm not, you're asking me what I remember. I remember that one, and this is a big one. And I love the build-up because, this is so big for Canada because they haven't won the thing in over 30 years as a nation. And they get to the Cup final, and they immediately lay an egg, and they're like, okay, we're not going to win the Cup again. And now they're built back up again, on this crescendo, right? And they're there again. If they don't win this thing tonight, that nation may just completely melt down with the polar ice. And, that's kind of comical. You know what? Look, I never would have believed that they would have climbed all the way back in this thing, but they have, and they deserve a ton of credit for that. Now, they do have some pretty good players, which would make you question why they were down 0-3, but they were. But, don't you think tonight clearly all the pressure is on Florida, though?
I think so.
They would be the ones who blew the 0-3 lead. And has it been since, Detroit in, the 50s or something since that happened?
It's happened 4 times in the history of the league. But, yes, Detroit in the Cup final, I believe, was the team that did it.
Well, look, there's a difference between doing it in rounds 1, 2, or 3 and in the final.
Oh, yeah.
All right? When you do it, when you are 60 minutes from hoisting the cup and you have 4 chances to do it and can't, that's bad. That's Mary Catherine Gallagher. That's bad.
Speaking of the whole Canada thing, obviously I get it, 1993 and all that. Aren't Canucks and Leafs and Flames fans rooting for Florida though? You know what I mean? Do they
Flames fans
do
are.
they ban?
You think so?
That's a good point. Band together as a nation
country, and they hate.
Flames fans are rooting for a meteor.
They hate hockey teams south of the Mason-Dixon line. They hate it.
But they're rivals with various different cities, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. But we watch, all the time. We hear SEC all the time. SEC.
That's true.
But then I agree with people who say, screw that. I hope Bama loses every game. That's what it should be.
I always want the St. Louis Cardinals jet to crash into Lambeau Field. So, I'm never rooting for those teams.
That's a little morbid. That's a little morbid on a Monday morning.
I got a lot of hate. I got a lot of built-up anger for a long time. You're fortunate because the Lions have done nothing to ever anger me.
Well, it's true. Rexrode could be right in the crosshairs. No comment from Rexrode. He's just totally disavowing all Lions comments.
I've been dreaming of their practice facility being sucked into the earth for decades. He's kind of ugly though.
Oh, beautiful.
They remake the 2012 movie, and they started at the Lions.
The Lions practice facility. Yeah, it's a good movie.
Lake Michigan comes up. Good time.
Just awesome.
Please, Lord.
Corey, great stuff as always. Thanks for taking time to be with us this morning. And what a night, for June 24th, this is pretty darn good. A winner take all.
By the way, who does everybody like in both games tonight?
I'm going Tennessee, and I'm going, man, the hockey game's tough. But I think I've switched. I think I'm going Edmonton.
What about you, Corey?
What did you say, Joe? I'm sorry.
Well, someone asked me about a parlay, and I'm just ignoring them in the text line. You do not want the responsibility of helping you to parlay. But if I have to pick, I will go Tennessee, and I will go Florida. Yeah,
I'll go Tennessee as well. And I have a really, you know what? I would go with Edmonton because of the star power and because Bobrovsky just hasn't been himself lately.
Yep.
But you know what? You know what the parlay would really be to take the under in both games.
Yeah, it would. It would. I think McDavid. The reason I'm going to Edmonton is McDavid. I don't think is going to be denied. Like I think once he's gotten to this point, I think he's going to play out of his mind tonight.
I think and the Kachuk's a great player, so it's not like Florida doesn't have great players. But McDavid is the best player in hockey, and it's you have a hard time. There's a reason those guys are valuable, and you don't bet against them because they're the best, they're the greatest. These are the moments that define careers, and McDavid knows that. McDavid knows that this is a pinnacle point for him. If he wins this game in history, he will be a Stanley Cup champion, number one, which is the most important thing in sports to be a superstar is to have the championships to put on the wall next to your name. But to bring a team back from 0-3 down and be spectacular doing it, it will just build to his legacy and his majesty over the sport.
No doubt about it. Corey, have fun watching it all tonight, and we will talk to you next week.
Hockey on News 2. I know everybody wants to watch the baseball game, but maybe run 2 TVs.
Yeah, go both. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm going both.
Okay.
It'll be fun.
Both.
Thank you, Corey.
EOS. All right, bye.
Corey Curtis from News 2, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. We'll take your thoughts on what Corey had to say, get back into Tennessee and Texas A&M coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We are broadcasting live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keys are here with you on this Monday morning. Appreciate Corey Curtis from News 2 for being with us in the last segment. Game 3 tonight between Tennessee and Texas A&M. So, Joe, I asked you this earlier. Who do you think has the advantage heading into tonight? The betting odds would tell you it's Tennessee pretty big. I mentioned earlier FanDuel has Tennessee to minus 290 favorite. Somebody texted us earlier about DraftKings at minus 230. So a pretty hefty favorite on the betting front for Tennessee. In terms of matchups, the pitching availability, lineups, all those things, who do you think has the advantage on paper heading into a decisive Game 3 tonight for the national championship?
Well, Tennessee is the better team, and I think that's especially true with Braden Montgomery out, star centerpiece of that Aggies lineup. They also missing one of their best pitchers who got hurt along the way here, Shane Sadow, if I said his name correctly. So Justin Lampkin goes tonight, and you know, the two key guys for them available. They did not have to use Evan Aschenbeck, a very good senior lefty out of the pen. He'll get a lot of work tonight. And of course, they're hoping for a great start from Lampkin. His numbers aren't great, a 5 even ERA. He's 245 average against. He does have 86 strikeouts to go with 20 walks. Solid pitcher. He's a lefty. You look at the Tennessee lineup and you're like, yeah, I'd rather have a lefty, right? To do. I mean, it's very balanced. They're 3 apiece in that ridiculous top 6. But Burke, Dreiling, Tiers, lefties. So you kind of like that. The thing is, Burke and Dreiling have been hitting left in particular. Have hit lefties very well. So then they also have a righty in Josh Stewart, who also is able to rest. I think it's going to be. I'd be surprised if we see anybody but any of those 3 names. For Tennessee, is Xander Sechrist going to end his career as just an all-time freaking legend? I mean, if he gives them another start, goes deep into the game, and keeps that score down, it would just be an incredible story. But the Vols have, I think, a little bit more depth available. They barely use Kirby Connell. He gave up a hit in his one appearance yesterday, one hitter he faced. And then, of course, Snead came in the end, but Snead could be up for a lot of work tonight, potentially. So then, you have other possibilities there too. But I think it would probably be those 3. I think Combs is done. They spent Combs yesterday, just like Texas A&M spent Chris Cortez. Chris Cortez was incredible yesterday. And he's out, and Combs is out. So I think I guess you could look at it like 3 guys on each side. But look, the Tennessee lineup is better, and they finally kind of broke through after a day of frustration yesterday. And I could see that carrying over a little bit tonight into the early stages of the game.
Well, they need it to. And, the pitching part of this is going to be really interesting. With Sechrist, the way he's played lately, if he could give them 4 or 5 good innings, like if he could get in there, get into the 5th inning, I think that's a win for them tonight. And then you let the bullpen take over. Like, he's not going longer than that. You let the bullpen take over from there. At least I don't think he's going longer than that. But
he got into the 7th his last 2 times. Just saying.
He did. I would be surprised if that's the case tonight, unless he is just absolutely dealing. But I think if you can get him into the 5th, that's a pretty big win for you if you're Tennessee.
No doubt. Yeah, I mean, Drew Beam just got in the 5th yesterday, and I thought he was tremendous. I mean, that guy is, the pressure of the moment yesterday for Drew Beam is not just that it's your start and you're trying to keep the season going. You're watching your guys struggle. You're watching your guys not get the big hit with runners on base. You're watching Chris Cortez throw 101 and then sliders that are just diving to the dirt. And you're like, I cannot give up. You give up that 1 home run in the second batter of the game to Laviolette, who's a hell of a player. And then he had he had to shut them out. He comes out and gets a strikeout to side inning with 12 pitches. He was fantastic, and Combs was fantastic. So pitching, which is a thing that we thought might be their undoing, saved them yesterday. Now can they put both things together? If they do, then I think they're going to have a fun night and a dog pile.
Well, and the other part of this, if you're A&M, not that you can't just sit here and worry about it heading into the game, but I brought it up earlier. Christian Moore, Blake Burke, Amick, can those guys get going? By my quick math, Joe, and I did this in about 45 seconds, so I think I'm 90% sure it's correct. Christian Moore 1 for 8 in the series, Blake Burke 2 for 9, Amick's 1 for 8. So that's a 4 for 25 combined. So if all those guys, if two of those guys get going tonight, what does that mean for Tennessee? They've held those guys down pretty well so far in the series, but we've seen it. Like it's just really, the more you see Christian Moore and the more he sees you, it's difficult to hold him down. Blake Burke, difficult to hold down. So they've done a nice job against those guys so far in the series. Does that change tonight in Game 3? And if it does, you'd think that's a huge advantage for Tennessee.
Right. Do you have Tears? Because he's another guy who has struggled in this series for sure, and he was absolutely scorching. He's something like that too.
He was 0-5 in Game 1, and let's see what he was yesterday real quickly. Tears yesterday was...
Of course, he had the final catch.
He was 1 for 4 yesterday. So you're talking
there you go. So
1 for 9.
Yeah, so 4 of their Murderers Row top 6 have not been their normal selves. And again, you got to give credit to Texas A&M too, and their pitchers. Good question on the text line. Could Causey go in tonight? I would say yes. I would say that Causey, who of course did pitch a lot and didn't have great success, but they had to have him eat some innings in the opener. I would say with that day off, yes, he could go. And he's another kind of crafty arm. He's of course the submarine style. If you can show people different things, obviously different arm slots, different speeds, that's where I think Snead comes in, and Snead's bringing it at 97, 98, but you had Combs with just commanding that curveball was 77 every time, and my goodness, it was just fluttering up there and causing the Aggies all kind of trouble. Yes, I think Causey would be probably the most likely 4th guy. There's other guys. I mean, look, who knows? You could have a surprise in there. You could have even a Marcus Phillips. Next year he's going to be, I think, a key guy along with Snead and some other guys, in this staff. But I think Causey would be the 4th guy who I would say has a possibility.
I would think so too. And then, from a starting standpoint with Sechrist, what a story it would be if he comes in there tonight and pitches really, really well. I mean, we've gone through kind of his background and everything leading up to this point for him, but so far in the postseason and late in the season, he's been really, really good. Like what a story it would be if he finishes it off tonight and it results in a national championship for Tennessee. You're talking about a guy that's been around for a while, wasn't really much of a factor in the program, and now has an opportunity to pitch in the biggest game of his life tonight with an opportunity to win a national championship.
Yeah, the personality of the 22 team obviously was set by Drew Gilbert and Jordan Beck. And as everybody knows, that's when the Vols became the villains and all that stuff, right? The personality of this team, again, Sechrist and Connell were on that team too. They were kind of the comic relief. But they kind of set it with this team now. Obviously there's intensity. We've talked about Christian Moore today. He's out there barking and just fiery, and they're intense and all that stuff. But I think Sechrist has that. He just has that let's enjoy this too. Let's have some joy in the moment, and it's baseball, man. Go out and play. Look, that doesn't guarantee he's going to perform well tonight, but I think Gentry had a good column in the Tennessean today. And just about how he might be the perfect guy for this moment, just because he does seem to have perspective, and he's got that laid back thing, and they kind of set that personality for this team. It's a team that has been able to handle all these moments, and you have a bad game, and then you come out the next game and you play better.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Tennessee playing for the national championship tonight against Texas A&M, a winner-take-all Game 3. We'll take your thoughts on that. What do you make of the matchup? Does Tennessee have the advantage? What would a national championship mean to this program and the fan base? 615-737-1025. More on that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. I got some tickets to give away. A pair of tickets to see All Elite Wrestling, Bridgestone Arena, July the 24th. Caller 5, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. A pair of tickets to see All Elite Wrestling, Bridgestone Arena, July 24th. Some AEW action. 615-737-1025. Taking your thoughts on the Vols. A winner-take-all national title game tonight between Tennessee and Texas A&M. Tyler on the text line says, I feel like a championship here will leave some of the pressure with one of our teams finally getting over the hump. Winning promotes winning, and from a fan base standpoint, I think people start to believe more if we can finally get one. This is from Tyler on the text line. It would relieve, Joe, for sure, some of the battered Vols syndrome that we started to see once again yesterday on Twitter. It was a beautiful sight.
Yes, it would. And unless the Vols are immediately up 16-0 in this game and half of the Aggies get injured early, then I'm sure there will be some freaking out tonight by Vol Twitter until it's done.
I'm sure there will.
Keep it together. Keep it together. You know, if your team's down early, you know, they can still come back. Yeah, look, from the big picture Tennessee fan perspective, this is a long time coming to finish the deal. And I just, again, I've seen out here, it's a lot of people have come out here to Omaha in orange, and they are very excited, and they were very, I guess, subdued, you know, after Saturday's game. Although Vitello said they kept him up partying all night, so it couldn't have been that bad. But you know, the online freaking out, I get it. It's kind of funny. If you get this one, well, I've seen, actually, I heard a fan, and I forget who Big Joe called him. I'm chasing Big Joe. He's like the mayor of, I don't know, but he was like, we're gonna win it too, baby. So, you know, you can just roll this into football season if you win this title and just stay on that high all the way into August. And then the preseason optimism that every team has, it'll be doubled for Vols fans.
As of last night, Joe, and this was a tweet from 14 hours ago, the Rocco's Jello Shot Challenge in Omaha, Nebraska. The count for Tennessee, 27,004 Jello shots. For Texas A&M, 27,422. So as of 14 hours ago, the Aggies leading in the Rocco's Jello Shot Challenge in Omaha, Nebraska. I expect better from Vol Twitter.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised because they had a pretty sizable lead. And again, I got people coming at me about the saying the stadium 65-70% Vols. It is. I doesn't mean maybe all the Aggies fans are doing Jello shots during the game, but there's a significant difference in fans, butts in seats, orange versus maroon. And it's definitely tilted quite heavily the Vols' way, but. Yeah, man, oil money. I mean, it's like last year LSU, like the guy who, like, I think it's the Raising Cane's guy, right? He'd buy like 20,000 shots or something, like. So they set the all-time record of like 1 million last year. And by the way, a chunk of that money does go to charity, so at least there is that. Like it is used. It's not just people sucking down,
obliterating Jello shots,
bad vodka and gelatin. Like there is some value in the whole thing, but yeah, I'm surprised. I'm impressed that the A&M has hung in like they have. It's going to go down to the end.
It is. Dylan on the text line. I've never really been into baseball, but this is the first year I've kept up with it because my father-in-law is a diehard Vols fan. Don't know a ton about it, but the pitcher the Aggies had yesterday, Cortez, seems like he's an absolute stud. First off, yes, Cortez was awesome yesterday. Secondly, it does feel like, I said it earlier, it felt like yesterday I was watching like a pretty big-time, high-level college football Tennessee game with just the activity level from the fan base on social media. And not that social media is like the be-all, end-all of judging things, but it's pretty clear that Tennessee fans are kind of all in here, and even your casual fans that don't care about baseball all that much. And I still think, Joe, this is just my guess, and I could be wrong. If you broke it down and like people were really truthful, like would you rather have a baseball national championship or like a college football appearance in the college football playoff? My guess is football probably still wins, but there's some serious buy-in from the Tennessee fan base on what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, football is going to win, but I guess if you're a Vols fan out there, is there anybody out there who would say, yeah, I just can't get into this? Or I know some Tennessee fans who just aren't, it's just baseball. And I do it.
The only thing I've heard,
I think you'd be hard pressed.
You're hard pressed to find it, and they've watched it anyway. The only thing I've heard, I have had a couple of buddies that have texted me and been like, oh my God, it just takes forever. Like the games take so long. I get it. They're trying to correct it.
Yeah. Well, and like, especially that game 1, 4 hours plus, and like, your team's down 7-1 right away, and it just goes on and on. And my gosh, do we have to challenge everything? Do we have to like the Christian Moore challenge? I know somebody's going to get after me for hating on Tony V, but it's like it wasn't even close. He must have told them that the ball hit him, right?
He must have.
But and also, by the way, the first base ump yesterday, how do you miss both of those calls? Like,
I don't know.
In real time, I thought both were out, and then the review both times, he was wrong. But anyway,
listening to Vitello in the dugout, just yell.
That could be, but definitely these games are too long, no doubt. I mean, even yesterday was like a pitcher's duel. Like, usually games like that go quickly, and it was well past 3 hours. But I think tonight, especially when you get it down to that football, like, here it is. This is one contest to decide it. It was so much on one game. It's rarely the case in baseball. I think you're going to have very few Tennessee eyeballs that aren't on this game.
Yeah, I think so. And look, an opportunity here from a fan base standpoint. We talked about this earlier in the hour with Corey Curtis. This is a fan base that will never be, what a college football national title is or anything like that. But just to have your team break through, it's been a long time. It's been since 2008, since when Pat Summitt and Lady Vols broke through, that Tennessee has had, a team in a major sport win a championship and a national championship. And this is an opportunity, a winner-take-all game tonight, where you've been, I think, clearly the best team in college baseball for most of the season. You've got an opportunity to do it. And this tonight, Joe, is part of what makes sports so great, because the swing of emotion here in terms of what's possible is pretty wild. Like, if they lose tonight, this fan base is going to be devastated. Even though it was a great run and they've done a great job by, answering some questions and getting to this point and playing to the last game of the year, I mean, the fan base is they're going to come unglued tonight if they lose. And if they win, it's going to be epic. Like the celebration, I made the joke earlier about the Omaha police scanner. It may be more apropos to turn on the Knoxville police scanner if they win tonight, because the celebration is going to be ridiculous. So this tonight's setup is part of what makes sports awesome.
Yeah, I mean, if they lose, then it's like you can't knock them. You can't be mad at anybody, right? But it is the ultimate. I mean, just tease you to the very end and then heartbreak, right? Yeah. Like BVS. That's a significant chapter in the BVS book.
It is.
But like you said, euphoria if they win. Here's a question for Vols fans, but this is it's not a good question to ask now, because like they're playing for a national title tonight, but baseball national championship. Let's take football out of it. We know football is different, but baseball national championship, or Rick Barnes' team gets to the Final Four without knowing how it goes from there. If you could choose, you get the baseball national championship, or you get men's basketball gets to the Final Four for the first time ever, and then whatever could happen could happen.
It's a great question. I mean, like, obviously, like the text line, my guess, will be overwhelming baseball national championship, because they're getting ready to play for one tonight. But I think on the surface, it's a good question, especially with the caveat of you don't know where it goes from there with the Final Four. I think it's a pretty good question.
Like, that's the question to ask in September going into a sports year, right? But yeah, once you get this close with anything, then obviously there's just such a huge difference, win or loss, in this one game.
615-737-1025. Let's go to our 1025 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Nate. Nate, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
What's up, guys? So y'all mentioned the Christian Moore challenge, which I thought a couple of his headphone gestures have been questionable this tournament, because I have noticed that it's been pretty off when he's wanting to challenge whatever it is. But with the one where Vitello came out saying that he got hit by the pitch, I don't know if you noticed, Robby, like if you were listening to the TV broadcast, but how much do y'all really think that Vitello could have been doing that to kind of try and make the freshman pitcher think a little more? I equated it yesterday to kind of like icing a kicker.
Interesting thought. Thanks for calling, Nate. That's
Good
interesting.
thought.
I mean, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say that doesn't happen because I think that absolutely could happen. I don't know if that's what he was going for there, but that's an interesting thought for sure. Like let the more time you got to sit there, if you're a pitcher and things start to get in your head and the environment creeps in, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, possible. But I mean, you have limited challenges too, and who knows what might happen down the line. Speaking of decisions, one thing Vitello, I mean, so many things get lost, right, in these games when you're like thinking back on them or writing about them or talking about them. But you know, he had Stark bunting, 2 on, 1 out. And I was like, I get it because no matter what happens, that means you're going to get Christian Moore up again with multiple base runners. And, if it works, you have 2 guys in scoring position. And then, of course, they called it off, and he grounds into the 5-4-3.
Yeah.
At that point, I was like, man, maybe this is going to be one of those days where it's just like they just get no breaks. And I know I'm sure people were mad about that decision. He said it was like 50-50 in the dugout on take the bunt off or not, but that was one of those moments I was like, man, maybe they actually are just going to continue to run into a brick wall all day long. But then Dylan Dreiling happened.
And that was when Cal Stark was firmly in the crosshair of Vol Twitter, and it remained that way even into his next at-bat when he crushed the ball approximately 445 feet over the wall. He destroyed that baseball.
I'm sorry, Cal. I love you, Cal.
There's a lot of that. 615-737-1025, our phone number. More of your thoughts coming up next on Tennessee and the national title game tonight. Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. For June 24th, pretty good night in sports coming up. We'll take your thoughts on all that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in. Final segment of the day. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Joe Rexrode live from Omaha, Nebraska. The national title game tonight between Tennessee and Texas A&M. Game 3 of the College World Series Finals. Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight between Edmonton and Florida. We'll take your thoughts on all that. Paul on the text line wondering if I'm going Vols on big screen, Game 7 on the phone tonight, or vice versa. Joe, the goal tonight is the 2 TV setup. I have 2 that I can kind of move around, and I'm gonna go 2 TV setup right next to each other. I am a little upset, to your point, that Tennessee did not win Saturday, Sunday, so I could focus all my attention on the Cup final tonight. But there are worse things in life to having to watch 2 championship sporting events on the same night, and I'm gonna give it my best effort tonight.
Yeah, I'm really upset. I really am. I'm so excited for Game 7, and like we've talked about, this is the biggest hockey game in a while, and I really want to just be able to enjoy it, and I will be streaming it in the press box. But what's gonna happen? Overtime, and Vitello's breakdancing at the press conference. He just won a national title, and what am I gonna do? Do I pay attention to him, or am I watching the hockey?
Well, I will say this: the hockey's going to be fun. And I think we're going to get a great game tonight. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes into overtime. Having said that, there's no telling what Tony Vitello might say at the podium after they won a national title, so I'd probably keep my eyes on that. There's a wide variety of things that he might discuss if they win.
Yeah, there should almost be betting odds on if they win, which movie will he reference? You know, it's like Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Will he detail his vacation plans about going to Tulum?
Yeah, it'll be something to see, and just even just the on-field element of this, if they win, it will be something to behold, I'm sure. So, man, there's a lot at stake. I just wish that. Well, really, I wish last night, as I had a nice day game to cover, I was like, I need Game 7 right now, and it wasn't there for me. And the NHL had a primetime Sunday for its taking. And, these people are used to the 9,000-mile flights back and forth or whatever the heck it is. Just take the day off, take one day less between games, and play it last night. But they didn't do it.
They didn't do it. It's going to happen tonight. I think it's going to be great. So let's get into it, Joe. Let's start with Tennessee, Texas A&M. Who wins the national championship tonight, and why?
I'm going to go Tennessee. Baseball scores. I'll go Tennessee 8-5 over Texas A&M.
Okay.
And I think that I think this lineup, and 8 is that's not a huge number, but I think this lineup is going to get cooking a little bit early, get on the board. Texas A&M does have a couple really good pitchers still left, but Cortez has been burned out, and he has the best stuff. He has better stuff than Prager and anybody I've seen on that staff, and they used him to try to win it yesterday. And I think Sechrist will at least. I can't sit here and predict their gem where he goes into the 7th like he did in the deciding game of the Super Region, like he did against Florida State to get Tennessee here. But I think he'll give them another good performance, and they've got the arms to hold it from there.
By the way, Larry on the text line says, watch the hockey game in total, then turn the baseball game on. They'll only be in the 4th inning. Baseball taking a stray from Larry on the text line.
Oh, God, you may be right, Larry. That's the thing. I'm sitting here talking about watching the hockey game at the post game. Shoot. Yeah, I might be in the 7th inning. I can just stream. That would I'd actually take that if I could watch the whole hockey game before the baseball's over. I'll take it.
I will go Tennessee 7, Texas A&M 6. I think it's going to be awesome. I think it's going to be a great game tonight. Vol Twitter will be nervous as can be, which adds to the drama. But I do think Tennessee is better. I think it's hard to hold down Tennessee's lineup for this long, and Texas A&M deserves a lot of credit for being able to do it. I think guys like Christian Moore and Blake Burke come through tonight when you need them the most, and I think they'll do that. I think they'll win. I think Tennessee holds on. They win 7-6. What about Cup final? Edmonton and Florida tonight. Florida on the verge, and we went through it earlier. There's some other examples you can think of, but Florida is on the verge of one of the biggest collapses in sports history, major sports history in our country. But still an opportunity to win tonight. One game for the Stanley Cup at home. If you told them that before the year, they would probably take it. So who do you got tonight in Game 7? Connor McDavid and the Oilers, Matthew Tkachuk and the Panthers.
I'm going to go Florida 4, Oilers 3, double overtime. How about that for you?
That would be epic.
Wouldn't it, though? Yeah, I don't. I probably lean toward like, man, it's so hard. Edmonton's like a rolling train right now. And you mentioned earlier, I guess they'll have a fair amount of fans in the building.
That's the word.
Yeah, but I think Florida is going to reset and just get back to what they were doing before they've been outscored 20-5 in like the last 10 periods. And I think they're going to get it done.
I thought Florida was going to go up there in Game 6 and win. Everybody was all over the Edmonton train, and I thought it was a little bit too much love for the Oilers and that Florida would go up there and win. And then Edmonton ran him out of the building quick. I mean, Draisaitl made a great play. That building was rolling, even like through the TV. That was one of the louder buildings I think I've ever seen in a playoff game. So it was awesome. I'm interested to see what the environment is tonight in Florida. But right now, like, it just feels like to me Connor McDavid is not going to let them lose tonight. Like that's kind of the feeling I've had ever since Game 6 ended is McDavid and Draisaitl, they've gotten it to this point, and they're not going to let them lose. And I think they win tonight. I think Matthias Ekholm gets a cup. I think the Oilers get it done. I'll go Edmonton 4, Florida 2. I would love to see it go into overtime because a Game 7 Cup final overtime game, I can't think of really anything in sports that's better than that. But I think Edmonton wins 4-2. I think Connor McDavid is going to run away with the Conn Smythe either way, and it will be cool. I think a lot of Predators fans are rooting for that. I think they want to see Ekholm win a cup, and that'd be awesome if he's able to pull that off.
Yeah, I mean it seems inevitable at some point, but that's the thing. When you get that opportunity, just like it seems like Tennessee's going to be back with Vitello, but when you get the opportunity, you gotta bring your best and take advantage. Drew says A&M get to the 6 and give Aschenbeck the ball. They're toast. I assume he means the Vols are toast.
Yeah,
I think Aschenbeck might pitch more than that actually, but you know that's a big if, man. That is a big if. Lampkin's a good pitcher, not a great pitcher, and that's where I think the Vols might have some early success.
Yep, it could be a big night for Tennessee. They could end their championship drought here tonight as they take on Texas A&M in the College World Series final. I'm interested to see too. You know, we brought up the lineup part of this. Like how many pitchers does Tennessee use tonight? They've got some guys that are there and that are at their disposal. Like does Stamos get back in there tonight? Could they go Causey again? Like there's a bunch of options they've got.
Stamos is I failed to mention him earlier. He is another option. So and that's
it's possible. Not gone well for him.
No, but I feel like it's like one hard hit ball, and Vitel's like, okay, thanks.
Yep, see you later.
Come on in, AJ. Causey definitely could have a role here, without question. By the way, weekend winners, did you win?
I mean, I won a couple, I know at least of games, probably. So I would almost guarantee you that yes, but I will tally it up.
So hot honey pizza on Nick.
I will tally it up just to be sure.
Right.
I'll let you know. We'll have a big reveal in the 6 o'clock hour tomorrow. There's nothing else going on. No championship games tonight, so we'll have a big reveal tomorrow.
Good. I'll still be up after my all-nighter, so can't wait.
Joseph, enjoy your final day in Omaha today. Well, I guess your final full day in Omaha today. Enjoy the 100-degree weather, too. Should be fun.
Oh, man, I tell you what. I'm like a block and a half away. I showed up yesterday. I looked like the pilot on an airplane, man. I was just like, I mean, it's amazing. And that was a cool day compared to today. Can't wait.
Oh, boy. We'll have your full reaction tomorrow, the national title game tonight, Game 7 in the Cup final. Enjoy it. Going to be a great night in sports. We'll be back 6 a.m. tomorrow. Chasing Big Joe up next. This is 102.5, 106.3, The Game.